Okay, I believe we're back. I hope we're back. Um, I apologize. Okay. Oh, what is going on? Are we back? Okay, so that did not work. Shit. I thought it would work. That did not work. Um, fudge. Okay, well, hopefully, we will be able to get things working out. Where is D coming back? Oh shit. Can I quit? I don't know where D went. Hi. Are you back?
I'm back. He had a meltdown. I just got him put to sleep.
Okay, I thought I was going to be able to link the chat directly in, but it turns out it didn't work from Rumble, and I had to restart anyways because it didn't have the right title. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that next time because it doesn't work. But um, that sucks. Anyways, the live chat was supposed to have a pass through, but it's not working for the Discord, for the Rumble to the studio. So next stream, I will change it back because, well, that shit didn't work the way it was supposed to. But anyways, I can read off the chats if they pop up on Rumble. In the meantime, we still have Blue Rose back. And yes, we're back. So D, hi. We spoke too soon about that phone call.
It wasn't a phone call.
Well, remember when you got the original call? And I
Yeah.
was saying, "Oh, wow, you can still hear me after the call."
Close your
It
eyes.
came back to bite us later.
Close your eyes.
So, but what I do have is the first video ready if you are ready for it.
Go ahead.
It's going to be one of those days, I can tell. So we're going to be patient. Right?
Welcome back. A stunning political upset this week in the race to lead America's biggest city. 33-year-old Democratic Socialist and New York State Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani is poised to win the Democratic primary for New York City, beating out former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's now set to head to the general election, but his likely primary win is already sending shockwaves through the Democratic Party. And joining me now is Zoran Mamdani. Mr. Mamdani, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. There is so much to discuss. We have to start with your remarkable victory in the primary for mayor. You're 33 years old. As I just said, you started out at close to 0% in the polls, Mr. Mamdani. You came back to topple one of the biggest names in New York politics, Andrew Cuomo. What was the secret to your success? Do you think it was your message? Do you think that voters were voting against Andrew Cuomo? A little bit of both? How do you see it?
I think ultimately it was the focus on the fact that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. It's also the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet 1 in 4 New Yorkers are living in poverty, and the rest are seemingly trapped in a state of anxiety. And what we've seen is that this is a city that needs to be affordable for the people who build it every day. Our focus was on exactly that. And by keeping that focus on an economic agenda, we showed New Yorkers that this could be more than just a museum of what once was. It could be a living, breathing testament to possibility.
Well, let me ask you about what I was just discussing with Senator Chris Murphy. The fact that you have leaders Schumer, leaders Hakeem Jeffrey, who wrote very nice.
The fact those leaders are supporting, saying nice things about him is another reason to not vote for him. Just going to point that out.
But I thought that they really didn't endorse him.
They haven't endorsed him, but they're saying nice things.
Right.
So if there is someone who is saying anything good about what he is proposing, whether they have publicly backed him or not, or publicly endorsed him or not, that's a red flag like you wouldn't believe for me. Because we know Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, all of them, you know it's just going to end in bad. It's going to end really bad.
Right.
So that right there is alarming. I would not like him if they're supporting him. So that's just all I'm saying.
Very nice things about your victory, said you'd won a very strong campaign, have not endorsed you. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed you. Do you think the Democratic establishment is afraid of you?
I think that people are catching up to this election. This is an election that went against so much of the analysis that had been told about our party and where we needed to head to. And ultimately, what we're showing is that by putting working people first, by returning to the roots of the Democratic Party, we actually have a path out of this moment where we're facing authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
Well, let's talk about your policies, your vision for this city. Here are some of the things you've proposed: free buses, rent-stabilized housing, a $30 minimum wage.
Hell no.
Creation of city-owned grocery stores. It's a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you, if you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be?
The first thing is living up to these promises that I've made, because I've made them because I intend to keep them. And in a city of about 8.5 million people, close to 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized housing. The mayor, through a board called the Rent Guidelines Board, sets whether or not those rents increase or stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. This one, led by Mayor Adams, increased it by 9%. So the first thing that I would do is start to constitute a board that votes in reflection of reality. And the reality I'm speaking of is that the median household income of those tenants.
Yep.
The first 3 held the rent. And so the landlords got nothing while their costs increased. So for them to just tack on.
And yet he's failing to acknowledge that most of this. Yeah, and what he's failing to mention is that most of those last 3 were during COVID time, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
Oh, you broke up. What was that?
I said, I believe so.
So he's not acknowledging that it was during a time when people weren't able to work and everything was locked down. So
they
again,
never do. Nobody ever mentions COVID.
No.
They never say about anything about the lockdown and all the money that was lost and how much money
Well, they do, but it's only when they want more money.
Exactly.
They'll mention it when there's some benefit to mentioning it.
Correct. And that's the majority of the time. Seldom do I hear about COVID. Seldom.
Yep. Especially the negative effects of it.
Correct.
So yeah, go ahead, keep freezing rent. Landlords are going to get hurt because property taxes and stuff are paid by the landlord. And do you want to know what the property tax is on a God knows how many apartment buildings? How many stories? They own the whole building. How much do you think?
Yeah, I can't imagine.
The property taxes. It's insane.
Well, their goal is to have the landlords leave, and they want to take control of the properties so that they can decide who's going to live where and do what and how much it's going to cost.
Well, I've said it before a million times. Look at Flint, look at Detroit. All those empty homes, guess who owns them? All those homes that you don't see a for sale sign on. The state, the city, I'm sorry, the city owns them.
Mm-hmm.
They're all being held for something that's owed, whether it's property tax, water bill, anything like that. It's on lien. It's like on a lien. You
Correct.
can't.
And well, they
They
can
can
come
sell
in.
it, but
Yeah,
they won't.
right. And they can come in and take your home for a lot of reasons. You don't pay your electric bill. You don't pay your gas bill. You don't pay your property taxes. All they have to do
Yep.
is go to a magistrate, demonstrate that you have not paid them. And by the way, that's just not those bills. That could be other bills such as you haven't paid your medical bills, or you purchased furniture and you never paid on the furniture. So they can come and put a lien on the property, and that lien can last for quite some time. That means that you can't sell your property. That means that you probably won't get any type of loan to do any type of repairs to your property. But at some point, I forget what the dollar value is here, they have the right to take you to court and, you know,
Remove you from your home.
yeah, have the sheriffs come and say,
There was an incident I had heard about that a elderly widow was not able to pay the taxes on her land after her husband passed away. It was a farm. I believe this was in Michigan, but I can't remember for sure. And so the entire town got together and boycotted. They sat in her front yard and refused to let the bank take it. And they got something worked out where she was able to live there and not have to pay her more property tax, because why would they evict a little old woman in her 80s just because her husband died and that was the only income and she can't run the farm?
well, that,
So there was an
yeah,
entire
and that's
town.
the
I
issue.
This was back in the 40s.
And that, well, that's the issue I have in general with, my mortgage is
Hmm.
paid off. I don't own my home.
Yeah.
The
Well,
county.
you could lose the land and take your home with you
Oh
if you
yeah,
have the money to move your home.
yeah, that's funny. Uh, that
I
would be
know
that'd be an
that's one of
ideal
the things I keep
situation,
telling
but
people. I've screamed about it.
yeah, that'd be ideal. But now that I think about it, if that ever happened, I'd want to just set a match to it or take a sledgehammer to it. Uh, yeah, but then I'd get caught
And you would
for,
actually be dragged to court for that. You can
yeah.
actually get in trouble for burning down your own home.
Well, then we'd get in trouble because we would have to be responsible for moving the debris. But yeah,
Yeah.
you don't own anything. The county does, and the
Yeah.
state, the county property taxes and the school district. They own the land.
You think you do, but you're actually leasing your land from the state as long as you pay your bills and taxes.
Correct. And so
Hmm.
why would you want to be a homeowner today? Why would, it really doesn't.
Unfortunately, I do want to, because
Right.
then I don't have a landlord hovering over my shoulder, on
Right.
top of the state hovering over my shoulder. The less people I have telling me how I can live. I've told you before, I'm in a rental home. We can't hang pictures. We can't hang a clock. We can't hang curtains
That's
over our
ridiculous.
windows. I can't use my wheelchair in the home. And I know it's absolutely a violation of federal law, but I needed a place to live. And
Right.
I'm not fussing with the courts about it. We're just going to try to buy the house.
Right.
It's easier than fighting with them. And so I get stuck in bed because it is hard. So, yeah, I can't really go sit in the living room comfortably. The couch is not good, but I could sit in my wheelchair. But nope, we're not allowed to have it in the house. Oh, the seated walker? Yeah, nope, that's medical equipment. And oh, he refuses to put up safety rails.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, nope, not handicap friendly renting. and we needed a place to live, and there was nowhere else to go.
Hmm.
So yeah, we finagled our way in, and it's again another reason I'd rather own than rent. And I will gladly go and get a mortgage and well, in my ex-husband's name and help him through it. But yeah, he can own a home and I will help him with the finances.
Right.
It's better than renting. Like I said, but
Well,
I mean, look at these people that they
if
rent
I
an
was in the
apartment.
city, if I lived in the city, I would probably rent. Uh,
I wouldn't because even still, like I know people who have lived in an apartment in the city. They hung pictures. They thought they patched those holes properly. Well, the landlord decided, nope, you still got to pay for all those holes that you hung pictures from. They can come
yeah,
after you for it.
yeah, but I was lucky then, I guess,
Yep,
because
scuff up the walls.
I lived in an
Yep.
apartment and I had a landlord that let me paint the cabinets, paint the paint every room. Uh,
Oh, you are
yeah,
so lucky. No,
yep,
we want to paint here. We have to run the colors by the landlord. He did say we could use the semi gloss or high gloss type paints, but we have to get the colors approved by him first.
yeah. He didn't do any of that. In fact, back in the day, we painted they were metal cabinets. We painted them like a brown color and the walls yellow, and there was a big back porch we
Uh huh.
painted, and uh,
Oh yeah, nope, we can't do
we
that.
were lucky.
Can't have a garden in the backyard.
No,
Um,
we had a garden. We had tomatoes and stuff back there. I also had a cat.
uh, nope, can't have pets here, especially cats. The landlord explicitly hates cats.
Wow. Well, I guess
And
it
if you
all
feed the
depends
neighborhood
on.
cats, that's grounds for
Yeah, I guess it
eviction.
all depends on, at the time of what you need and where you got to go and, whatever, My younger one lives up in New York and,
Uh-huh.
he's able to have a dog and, uh, okay, settle down here, buddy.
Well,
Uh,
you're actually able to purchase an apartment in New
yes, you are.
York like you
Yep,
do a
a
home,
home. That's correct.
and you can have a generational passed down apartment.
Yes, you can.
There is that. But there's a lot of places that aren't doing that anymore because it doesn't benefit them to have an apartment where someone is owned the
Hmm.
apartment and they just pay kind of like living in a trailer park where you pay the lot fees to have your
Right.
trailer there. Same concept, just in an apartment. So, I mean, and even then, they can't really do anything because you own that part of the building.
Right.
So they don't make a lot of money off of it.
If you want some information on that, Cash Jordan, as I mentioned before, first got into real estate before he started doing this political commentary. So if you go back and look at some of his old videos, it shows uh, places from, I'm trying to think what the lowest price rent I've ever seen offered was maybe 750 a month for a nasty place where you had to get out in the hall and share a bathroom with people. Uh,
My
to
aunt lived in one of those, they called them, it was like a railroad car apartment. It was very narrow and long. And this was back in the 90s, mid 90s. Okay. And she was paying $1,000 a month for a one bedroom, one bath. And she had a day bed in the living room for when guests were around. This was in Brooklyn back in the 90s. It's only gotten worse, I promise you. And it was one of those apartments. It had like 3 stories with 2 apartments on each side of the steps. You know, she happened to be on the ground floor, and you walk in and you feel like you're in a railroad car. It is just narrow and straight back. So, yeah, it is. I would not live in a city at this point. I would rather live in the middle of freaking nowhere, hiding out and doing my own thing with nobody standing over my shoulder and no neighbors to bitch about what I'm doing. If I want to go shoot my guns in the backyard at whatever target I so feel like, as long as it isn't living, I don't want the neighbors bitching and complaining. Oh, I want to do archery instead? Great. I can just go do it. I want to walk around naked. No one will see me. I appreciate it. That's the life I want. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm ranting. Let's hit play.
Tenants is $60,000 a year. The landlords of those units have seen their profits increase by 12%. It's time for relief for working class New Yorkers.
Okay, well, of course, the big question is how are you going to pay for it? You've proposed increasing taxes on wealthier New Yorkers. The Democratic governor,
That's not what
though,
he
your state,
said.
Kathy.
Nope, that is not what he said. Richer, whiter neighborhoods was his exact wording, in case anyone hasn't noticed. Richer, whiter neighborhoods. But let's continue.
Hochul says she's not going to support increasing taxes in order to get it across the finish line. I want to let you take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say recently and respond on the other side. Here she is.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class taxes. Even on the wealthy. I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign. And ultimately, we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think you're going to be able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor, because ultimately my policies, my vision, it's driven.
Oh, Art had something to say. Landlords have a harder time than you think. They have all the expenses, and then when the renter trashes the place, you have the expense of the repairs and recovery. And renters generally have no money. Exactly. I feel bad for landlords. I really do. It used to be a decent business to get into when people were honest and caring, but society today, hell no, I don't want to be a landlord, especially to family. Oh my God, never rent to family. um, Shit, I'm congested. I apologize. Let's hit
Driven
play.
by an assessment of what's actually happening. The Fiscal Policy Institute found that the top 1% of New Yorkers leave at 1/4 the rate of other income groups. And when they do leave, it's actually to other states considered high tax, New Jersey, California. So it's not fiscal policy, it's quality of life. And ultimately, the reason I want to increase these taxes on the top 1%, the most profitable corporations, is to increase quality of life for everyone, including those who are going to be taxed.
Here's how the Washington Post editorial board wrote about your proposals. They say a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. His rent freeze would reduce the housing supply and decrease its quality. Cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mamdani, are your proposals going to hurt the very people you're trying to help?
Not at all. There have been many in editorial board who have had concerns, and what we've shown is that more than 400,000 New Yorkers are excited about this vision. And the reason they're excited about it is one that is in line with the scale of the crisis in this city. I mean, we are talking about our tax base growing smaller and smaller each day, with New Yorkers leaving to New Jersey, to Pennsylvania, to Connecticut. If we do not meet this moment, we will lose this city. And our proposals are ones that are thought out. They are ones that are also clearly going to be funded by these revenue streams. I'll give you an example. When we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, The reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
Well, you take me to my next question about grocery stores. Some executives, including one of the top grocery stores owners, billionaires, threatening to shut down his supermarket in the city. John Catsimatidis, who runs Gristedes grocery chain, you're probably very familiar with him. He said this on Election Day, quote, "If the city of New York is going socialist, I will definitely close or sell or move or franchise the Gristedes locations." In order to run New York City successfully as mayor, do you not need the support of a billionaire businessman like John Catsimatidis?
I don't know if I need his support specifically, but I want to make clear that my vision for this city is a vision for every single New Yorker, including business leaders across the city. And the reason I say that is that my proposals, even the ones to increase the top corporate tax rate of New York to match that of New Jersey, are ones that would also benefit those business leaders. Because when I have conversations with them, what I also hear is the just how expensive this city is preventing them from attracting and retaining the talent they need to grow their business. And ultimately, I'm looking forward to having those meetings, having those sit-downs to make clear why this vision would benefit all.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is...
If it's not driven by race, then why say whiter neighborhoods? Why? Why would he even bring it up if it wasn't about race? To me, that's bullshit. I think he's full of shit. Okay, just going to add that in there.
This is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes, and yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website?
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right. You are a self-described democratic socialist. Do you think that billionaires have a right to exist?
Another bad wording.
I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality. And ultimately, what we need more of is equality across our city and across our state and across our country. And I look forward to work with everyone, including billionaires, to make a city that is fairer for all of them.
Well, let me ask you about what Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has had to say. He's had a lot to say about your campaign. He called you a communist. Because he's the president, I want to give you a chance to respond directly to him. How do you respond? Are you a communist?
No, I am not. And I have already had to start to get used to the fact that the president will talk about how I look, how I sound, where I'm from, who I am, ultimately because he wants to distract from what I'm fighting for. And I'm fighting for the very working people that he ran a campaign to empower that he has since then betrayed. And when we talk about my politics, I call myself a democratic socialist in many ways inspired by the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there has to be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And as income inequality has declined nationwide, it has increased in New York City. And ultimately, what we need is a city where every single person can thrive.
All right.
I don't like anything he just said. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I really don't like a single thing that guy just said.
Yeah,
It
you
bugs me
might not like it, but a lot of other people
150+%.
Crazy B, you might not like it, but a lot
What
of
was
other
that, D?
people do.
Uh-oh, what happened to the video? They're still talking, but there's nothing coming from the video. Oh, shit, the video got corrupted. Well, it saves us a lot of headache of having to listen to more of his BS. I don't know what happened. Well, I guess we move on to the next one. But yeah, I get it. A lot of people are supportive of this dingbat. I am not one of them, but you know, it tis what it tis, right? Oh, goodness me. Let me dig out the next video if I can find it. One moment. All right. There we go. Now I'm in the right spot. Okay. All right. Next video was the Piers Morgan one. Where did it go? Okay. There it is. This one is actually a really good panel. I hope this didn't get corrupted in any way, fashion, or form. But this is actually a really good panel on Piers Morgan. Even though there's one chick on here, I absolutely wanted to smack the ever-loving daylights out of her. She gets on my nerves. She talks way too much. I personally just don't like her. But the rest of it, I think is worth listening to. So while Dee's dealing with little guy, I'm going to hit play and we'll see where this goes. Where's play? There it is.
This with my panel, founder and CEO of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, News Nation correspondent Geraldo Rivera, and the former DNC fundraiser Lindy Lee. But first, to give us plenty to debate, I'm sure I'm joined by the former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani. Rudy, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Good to see you, Piers.
Your reaction to this character who's come out of nowhere, and now the whole of America's talking about him. What's your response to Mamdani mayhem?
A total shock, something I never thought I would see in New York. New York has always been a little bit more inclined to be reasonable when necessary. I mean, we're the only one of these crooked Democratic cities that at any time in the last 60 or 70 years has elected a Republican. Chicago, 70 years of Democrats. Detroit, I mean, you've had me, LaGuardia, Bloomberg. They don't have anything like that. No reform, nothing. So, plus, we're the biggest Jewish city. For a while, we were the biggest Jewish city in the world. I think Tel Aviv has now passed us. So this is a shock to me that somebody like this would come along. And it isn't even just the anti-Semitism and the anti-Jewish hate. We've almost gotten used to it in the streets of New York now over the last 2 to 3 years. This guy is a major supporter of Hamas. This is a terrorist group that wants to destroy not just Israel, they want to destroy America. Their children are taught from about 2 years old, death to Israel, death to America.
Rudy, where has he expressed any support for Hamas? Because I haven't seen that.
Oh my goodness! I mean, he was by and large he wouldn't condemn what they did when they wiped out the Israeli people. He has refused to condemn them. He refused to acknowledge they're a terrorist group. Every time he's asked, he just kind of punts on the question. He has very, very strong statements that sound a lot like Hamas, intifada forever, intifada all over the world. And then he tries to claim that he has his own definition of intifada. Sorry, Zoran, you're not entitled to your own definition of intifada. They've killed about 8,000 people. That kind of sets a definition for it. We know what you're talking about. So I think you could put together a case that he supports an internationally acknowledged terrorist group that is a close ally of Iran. I mean, remember, although one is Sunni and the other is Shia, and they hate each other, Iran and Hamas, they join on two things: destroy Israel, destroy America. Death to America, death to Israel. That's what brings Iran and Hamas together.
But really, why
years
if you believe he's so, the way you've just categorized, why are so many New Yorkers in a city, as you said, which has more Jews outside of Israel than any city in the world, why would they have rallied behind this guy if he's such an enemy of Jewish people?
Well, Piers, that's a very good question. And it leads me to what's wrong with the people of my city. What's wrong with the people of Chicago? I mean, they had a mayoral primary a couple of years ago, and they picked the most outrageous, the most radical, and the dumbest candidate for mayor, who's now a complete disaster. And they've been doing it for 65 years, even though they're a shooting gallery every Saturday night. There's a brainwashing that has taken place in these old Democrat cities. It's the same reason why you'll go into some districts in New York and Biden got 95% of the vote. How could that have happened if the people are thinking clearly? How do we elect de Blasio? De Blasio went to Cuba on his honeymoon. He was in favor of the Sandinistas, and his mother was a member of the Communist Party at Harvard. And then after his first term, he was a complete failure. We had a 22% turnout, and we reelected him. And he's the one who really destroyed the city. I mean, he literally took everything Bloomberg and I did and trashed it. I get people that come up to me on the street crying and saying to me, "You must feel awful. Everything you did was ruined."
But when you have a Muslim candidate in a city like New York, and people start evoking 9/11, start putting burqas on the Statue of Liberty and all the stuff I played earlier, does that not make you feel uncomfortable? New York is one of the most inclusive cities in the world, right? A place normally that's very tolerant to many different religions, many different colors and creeds, right? Surely you would feel uncomfortable as the mayor of New York when that appalling terror attack happened. Are you comfortable that people use 9/11 as a stick to beat him with?
Nobody's doing that, Piers.
Well, they are.
I was the people who protected the Muslim people after 9/11. People expected a tremendous amount of reaction against them. And Bernie Kerik and I put together a task force for 4 weeks, and there was no attack in New York, not a single one, even though you might have expected one, given the kind of emotion involved. And one of the first things I said, as I was telling my people to please be careful and watch out, it might be another attack, is do not touch anybody. We're not going to be like them. We don't hate Muslim people. We hate the people who did this. And we have.
I don't always like Rudy Giuliani, but at least here he's talking some sense. I mean, he's not wrong, but he's also not really producing any proofs of anything. Um, so Giuliani is not Jewish. Just saying. Um, Going to point that out. I believe he's Italian. Um, but yeah, it's just I don't normally agree with everything he has to say, but this is one of those times that I can actually agree with him and like what he had to offer. He's done a lot for the city. He basically single-handedly got the mob issues under control. Like, y'all are not running this show. You don't get to run this show. And if you try, I'm going to make your life a living hell. So, kudos to him for that. But we still have the issue of this dude, Giuliani should have provided more proof. He should have had his stuff ready to go. And when he was talking about what he did wrong and what he's been doing wrong, he should have had his articles ready. Here's a link. Here's this. Here's that. So, that's just my stance on it. Let's hit play. Oh, yeah, no, Giuliani, the name itself is Italian. Like, yeah, Giuliani is definitely an Italian name, not Jewish. Um, but that's again if he hasn't been adopted or someone back further in the line wasn't adopted. So, But yeah, as far as I can tell, or I am been made aware of, he is Italian. But he was a great mayor. I will give you that, especially during 9/11. Dude was really taking care of that city when that would happen. I mean, him and Donald Trump. Donald Trump was one of the first ones on the scene, other than firefighters. He was the first he was the first important person to have shown up and started helping clean up everything. So kudos to them on that. Oh, well, then shouldn't have assumed he was Jewish. Just gonna point that out. Yeah, he definitely, his last name is Giuliani. He's a former mayor of New York from the 80s, 90s, and to the early 2000s, if I remember correctly. So yeah. All right, let me hit play so we can get back to it because this is a longer video.
And we have to make it clear to them that we can stand up to them. But then again, I'm not a fool. I know there are a substantial number of Muslims, and there's a substantial amount of the Quran that talks about slaughtering Christians and Jews. And there's a whole group of Muslims who believe that. And unfortunately, an undetermined number of them got into this country in the last 4 years, unlike any other time in our history, because of our pathetic President Biden, who also gave Iran hundreds of millions of dollars, and Obama did it in cash.
But
So
would
I don't
you
know
have a
what's going
problem,
on.
Rudy? Would you have a problem with a Muslim mayor of New York?
Not if he told me he would write out the portion of the Quran where Muhammad is
I don't
exhorting
agree with
the
this.
people
Hold
to
up.
kill Christians and Jews.
No one should have to disavow something they believe just to pacify. Now, would I want a Sharia law type Muslim running New York? No, not at all.
Well,
Not going to
he's
happen in
gonna.
my book. I would not
Yeah,
vote for
well,
it.
I disagree. If he's going to be mayor, he needs to carve that part out.
No, I don't think he should carve it out, but I do think he should not be elected. That's
Well,
like telling the Christians, well, if you want to become a mayor of this town, you
the
got to
problem
disavow
is
God,
he's
that
going to
Jesus was
be.
the son
The
of God.
problem is they're going to elect him one way or another, and if he's going to support
I
death
think it's
to
going to be a
America,
rigged election.
if he's going to support death to America or Sharia law, then he shouldn't be
He should
permitted.
not be running for
Correct.
mayor.
That's correct.
Now, I will say, if he wants to never disavow, then he should not be
He
running.
should not run for mayor then if he can't
If he
disavow it.
doesn't believe it, because otherwise you're going to have people saying, well, if you won't disavow Jesus is the son of God, we won't let you be mayor of the town. You got to balance it. If you
Well,
can't say it about one,
there's
you
a
can't say it
huge
about
difference.
another.
There's a huge difference between Jesus. I don't recall Jesus saying go out and kill, other religions or
Old
Americans.
Testament,
Okay?
Old Testament, God told the Hebrews to take out their enemy and even dash the baby's head into the rocks. Cut the baby from the womb and dash his head to the rocks. Yes, Christianity has a very violent background if
Yes. Yeah.
they
But
follow to the
come on,
T.
Angie.
However,
Crazy
Jesus,
be.
being the Son of God,
Put that
removed all that necessary. But if they have to disavow Jesus, then it's still a
put
thing.
that you know what I'm put
I
that in
believe he can
today's
believe what he wants, but he
terminology.
should not be mayor.
Move that forward in today's current situation. I do not know anybody that is going around that is Christian or that believes in Jesus that is saying we need to uh, say death
Do what I
to whatever country.
pointed out.
I'm saying
Yeah,
today.
I get that.
I'm saying in today's time,
I
as
agree. There are
today.
no Christians doing that, trying to run for government at least.
Correct. So if
Because
you
if
have
you listen to my
somebody that
dad, we should
I
send all
don't
the gay
care, yeah, and
lesbians
I
to
don't care what
California.
religion it is or whatever. I don't care if it's religion or not. If you're going to say death to America, then you should not be permitted to run.
I don't want anyone in power saying harm to anybody. Like, I would not vote for my dad because he has and still holds to most of the time that all the gays and lesbians need to be sent to California where we trigger an earthquake and watch them drowned in the ocean. I do not support a Christian like that. And I was raised by a Christian like that. So there are many out there. It is alarming how many are out there, to be quite honest. That's why I say, you're allowed to believe your religion, but don't you dare run for office if you hold these views. That's my whole thing. But he should not be forced to disavow in order to run for government. He should be able to believe it, but not be allowed to run, my personal opinion, or be elected in.
Well, that's the
But,
same thing.
America has freedom of religion.
Yeah, and it's basically the same thing. He either disavows it and runs, or he just, if he believes in it, then and he doesn't want to disavow it, he can't
Well,
run.
I'm just saying I wouldn't elect him. I'm not going to elect someone like that.
That's you.
I don't think anyone should have to disavow any part of their beliefs.
Yeah, that's you, Crazy Bee. How many other people are already voting for him? They don't care about that. They
I
don't even
get
know
they
what
don't care.
they have people
That's why I
going out
don't
on
live
the
in a city.
street. They don't even know what Sharia
Well,
law is.
that my opinion obviously is the wrong one, so I won't give it any further.
Okay, I'm out. Bye.
Bye. I'm done. We'll be back tomorrow.